In this video, I'm going to go over how to use the COUNTIF function. So some of the things I'm going to go over is how to count by category, how to use wildcards, how to count blank cells and non-blank cells, as well as how to count numbers. So to start off, I've just got a simple data set here. The largest companies' stocks by the different sector, and another tab I have them by their size in market cap. So this is just a really simple example. I just wanted to show you how you can use the COUNTIF function in this situation. So first off, I'm going to start with just the basics of how to use a COUNTIF function, and that's, let's say we just wanted to look up, I've got a list of 1,000 companies or stocks in here, and how many of them belong to the computers and technology sector. So to do that, start with the COUNTIF function, and then what I need to do is just select the range that I want to be counting in and my criteria. So in this case, I can just put in quotations computers and technology. This isn't case sensitive. Okay, so it tells me 170, and this is formatted as $1. So I'll just change that. So that gives me 170 items in here have the phrase computers and technology in them. Now, I don't have to hard code this. I can just reference the name. So for instance, if I'll just type in here computers and technology, and then here I can use the COUNTIF function to select the range and then select the cell, hit enter. And this way it makes it a bit more dynamic. Now the danger with COUNTIF functions is if you've got an extra space, if you've got an extra letter somewhere, like if I just had a space here, it's not going to pick that up. So you want to be careful that you are typing it in correctly. Like if I type in finance, nicely updates for me there. And I can put these sections down here. So if I wanted to copy all these range of sections in here, I'm going to paste them as values. And then what I'm also going to do is remove the duplicates. And now what I can do is, again, I can use the COUNTIF function again to say look up this range while referencing this. And then I can easily just copy this down. And now it gives me a total of how much I have based on the different categories. Now, in some cases, you may not want to be looking for an exact match. Like I said, this is the basic COUNTIF function where you're taking the exact match. But there's a couple categories, like let's say consumer staples, consumer discretionary, that you just want to grab anything that has consumer in it. So what I could do is obviously I could do type in consumer staples and consumer discretionary in here, and then simply total those up using the auto sum here, and that gives me the total. But let's say I don't want to do that. I want to use something a bit more versatile, something a bit more dynamic. This is where I can use a wildcard to help me. So let's say I just want to type in consumer. That's what I'm going to be looking for. So I can just do a COUNTIF function, and what it does first, I'm just going to do it with hard coding, and then I'll show you how I can reference the cell. So I'm going to select the range again. And now with the criteria, this time I'm going to type in consumer, and it doesn't matter, it's not case sensitive, so I'm going to type in all lowercase. And then I'm going to add an asterisk at the end. Close brackets. And now that gives me 121, the same total as when I was adding them individually. Now if I want to make this dynamic, I don't have to type consumer in here. I do need the asterisks in there. And then I can just reference this cell and then add the ampersand to join those. And now that does the same thing as me typing it in. So if I type in, let's say computers, or just computer even, it's still going to give me the total. If I type in auto, it works fine. And so the one thing you're going to want to consider when you're using an asterisk is, is the text coming after or before your criteria. So for instance, like right now, if I type in computers, it works just fine because the asterisks is coming afterwards. So that tells me anything that starts with computers can be included. But let's say, for example, that I type in technology. There's nothing that starts with technology, so the asterisk isn't going to help me here. So I'll show you a couple of ways that you can use an asterisk here. So if I type in computers, this works. If I type in technology, I'm going to have to adjust this formula slightly. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to move this asterisk so it's at the beginning. And now connect it, and now I still get the same total. Now, what if I don't know if it's going to be at the beginning or at the end of a string? Then what I can just do is type in tech, let's say. And so this isn't going to work in either scenario, but what I can do here is put an asterisk before and after. Okay? And now, regardless of where it is, it's still going to give me the same value. So in this case, I had it at the end because anything that starts with computers shows up. Here, I had it at the beginning, so anything with technology at the end. So the asterisk represents the characters or text that will come up before, right? And if I have it before and after, then it's going to grab anything with the word tech in it. And even if I just type in the letter S, it's going to give me everything that has the letter S somewhere in here. So that's how you can use wildcards in your COUNTIF calculations to be more dynamic. Now, I'll show you another thing that you can do. This isn't really a COUNTIF function, but you can use something like COUNTA if you want to count all the non-blank cells. And enter. So it gives me 1,001 because I've got 1,000 values in here plus the header, so that gives me 1,001. If I wanted to count how many blanks I have, I could use the COUNTIF, select the range, and then just blank quotes with nothing in them. And that's the same as using the COUNTBLANK function if you have it on your version of Excel. Just select that, and it'll do the same thing. So a number of ways that you can count cells and count values in here. The one thing I'm going to switch over to now is market cap to show you how you can use the COUNTIF function with numbers. So before, in the other example, I was using text, and so there you're looking for an exact match. When you're using with COUNTIFs with numbers, an exact match isn't really going to work in a lot of cases, as you can imagine. I'd have to have an exact match for these dollar values, otherwise it's not going to pick up. So it's not going to be terribly helpful. But what I can do is I can still use it with the greater than or less than symbol. So if I type in, let's say 1 followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for trillion, and let's say I want to pick up all the stocks here that show up as having more than 1 trillion in market cap. So what I can do is, now let's do the COUNTIF function, and then again I'm going to select this criteria except this time, or this range, and for the criteria I'm going to use the greater than sign, and then again use the ampersand to connect the value, close brackets, and now it tells me that there are 5 stocks that have $1 trillion market caps or more. So that tells me it falls within that category. So I could do this again for the same thing. Let's say I wanted to look at 500 million. So it's 5 trillion. 500 million, 250 million, and let's say 100 million. So I just want to grab all these categories in here. So I can just copy my formula all the way down. And so now I've got a breakdown of how many of these stocks are over 100 million, 250 million, 500, and 1 trillion. Now, the one thing here though is there's going to be some overlap here, because obviously if something is more than a trillion, it's also going to be over 500 million and over 250 million and over 100 million. So if you want to be able to track how many fall in just within that specific range, for instance, what's between 500 million and 1 trillion, then we're going to have to add an extra criteria. And you can do that using the COUNTIFs function, ifs with an S. So this isn't available on older versions of Excel, but the COUNTIFs with an S, basically how it works is you're entering a pair of arguments each time, the first for the range and then the actual criteria. So if I wanted to capture all the stocks that fall in between 500 million and 1 trillion, what I'm going to do is first set up the criteria to say, okay, that's my range, and I want it to be at least greater than 500 million, and I can do a greater than or equal to say if I want to at least be that amount. Close bracket. I actually need the ampersand in there. There we go. And now I've got my range where it's looking at column B and looking if it's greater than or equal to this value. And then again, for the criteria range, I'm still going to be in column B, except this time I'm going to say it has to be less than the value above it. So I don't want to include the values that are over a trillion. So here I'm checking to say, okay, it's greater than what I have in D9, but it's also going to be less than value in D8. And so this way, there's no overlap. And so I can check this by looking, okay, so this is under a trillion, and this is over 500 million. And so I can see the count is 7, so that's correct. And so I can copy this formula down, and it'll work the same way. So if I like at 250 to 500 million, I'm looking at these ones right here, and that's a count of 17. So that's how you can use the COUNTIF function in a variety of different ways. You can use it for counting blanks, counting numerical values, counting text, and using wildcards and greater than or equal signs to narrow in specifics on what you want to count. So that's in a nutshell how you use the COUNTIF function. Thanks for watching.